Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for Base Motel Season 3, Episode 3, Persuasion, and oh my god, guys, I am just loving this season. Seriously, this was by far the best episode of the season, and I'm going to tell you guys why. First of all, not a lot happened in this episode, but it was more about conversations between Norman and Norma. Most of it was just conversations between them, and I love that. I really love that about this season. And especially because last year we had 2 great episodes and then 1 not so great. It's great that this year's so consistent with this season. This is gonna be the best season. I'm saying it now. After this episode, oh yeah, this is totally gonna be the best season. I'm loving this season. I'm so into it. And this episode was just amazing. I loved it. And let's just get into it because it was great. And we see Norma, she's walking through the halls of the morgue, and of course, we know why she's there. She's entering this room, Romero's there, and he thanks her for being there, and there's a body on the table. They find the girl floating in the tidal waves. Now, of course, we saw at the end of last week, we saw that girl that was in the tidal flats, and Norma sees the toe polish, and it's the same toe polish as Annika. She's pretty sure that this is Annika. Annika, she tells Annika, how she rented the room at her hotel, and he uncovers the face, and she sees that it's not her. It's this girl with a blonde wig, but she is pretty sure that Norman is responsible for this girl as well, which I can totally understand why Norma thinks that, and she pretty much thinks that Norman's the one that has to, is the cause of this girl's death. So she goes back home. Norman asks what is wrong, and it turns out that he actually wanted her to go to this morgue, and she says that she threw up on herself because the smell in the morgue was terrible, and Norman goes on to ask if the girl in the morgue was Annika, and Norma says no. Norma wants to continue talking about it, but Norma's like shutting it down. She's like, I don't need this, we don't care, it's not our business, and she tells Norman to lay off because she has to start school and doesn't need this today, and Norman tells Norman to stay out of it, and so yeah, she doesn't really want him involved with this. It's kind of interesting that she doesn't really want him involved, but yeah, so she doesn't want him involved really. So Norma's then at school, and she is now starting school at Business Marketing 101, which I thought was kind of interesting. She heads to the main building, and in the class, all the students are already seated. Norma walks in. She's really awkward. It's really awkward for her, and she's feeling really awkward. And the teacher walks in and tells her that she's sitting in his chair. And they get into this really funny battle. Honestly, it was really funny. Like, she wants a seat, he wants a seat. They're fighting over it. It was honestly really funny what was going on there. And Norma tells him to pull a chair into the middle, and she realizes very quickly she's in the wrong class. She's in psychology, and the teacher asks her if she really should be in that class, which I kind of do see his point. I mean, just the fact of what's going on with her, how stressed she seems. It was still rude what he said, but he does have a point there. So Emma's then getting dressed, and this I love, because Emma's already a very attractive woman. I'm going to say that right now. The girl that plays Emma, she's quite hot. And seeing this, oh my god, it was great. She puts on this cute dress, high heels, lipstick. She arrives at work, and she looks so hot. She looked hot in that scene. She really did. And Norman's so shocked at really how attractive she looks, and he tells her that she looks good, and the thing is, though, she's as hot as all the women that he likes and all the women that he's attracted to. So I'm like, oh, please, Norman, please, don't think of killing her because I don't want them to kill off Emma. And Emma says she gets bored of wearing her usual clothes sometimes and needed a change, and it was a great change because she looked hot. But still, I was worried that Norman was going to get these weird thoughts about her, but luckily he doesn't. So this next scene I really like because, of course, as we know, Romero is a really bad rep with White Pine Bay right now. No one really trusts him. They don't really like Romero. So I like this scene overall because Romero stops by to see Norma, and he tells her that it is not a social call, basically. Oh, wait. Romero arrives at the club. He tells Bob that a woman was found in the tidal waves early in the morning and wants to know if any girls went missing. And Bob asks Romero what's worse, sex parties or drug wars, which he's kind of alluding to him in the drug war because he doesn't trust him. Romero tells him that if he thinks he's going to walk away from this crime because he thinks he has a free pass because of things that have gone down in the town, then he's wrong. And I like what Romero's trying to do. He's showing that while he has a bad rep, they can still trust him. He's a good guy. He hasn't done anything wrong, and they should still trust him. And I definitely really like that Romero's trying to do that because, honestly, yeah, they should trust him. Romero, he's done some bad things, yeah, but I like that he's trying to redeem himself and trying to show that he is a good cop and he knows what he's doing. They should trust him. Even though they don't trust him, they should trust him. It's stupid that they don't trust him, but for whatever reason, they don't trust Romero. They should. They just don't. And it's stupid why. So I like that he's trying to get all of them to trust him because they should trust him. So Dylan's working with Caleb, and of course, as we know, Dylan doesn't want anything to do with Caleb. He thinks that Caleb, he shouldn't trust him and everything, and Caleb offers him money for the lumber for the barn, and Dylan completely turns him down. He wants nothing to do with him, and it's just really sad overall, because he's trying to connect with Caleb, because Caleb's trying to connect with him, but Dylan still doesn't want to make that connection. It's really sad. So Romero stops by to see Norma. He tells her it's not a social call. He needs to talk to Norman about the girl in the morgue. He wants to know if there's a connection between her and Annika, which I think is a good idea overall because, she's the same age as Annika. She's also looks like Annika. So it's pretty, and plus he knows what's going on with Norman, so it's pretty certain that he could have killed her. And it's plausible, definitely. So Norma's against it, but Norman suddenly wakes up, and he's just so creepy. He's like, what is it, mother? What's going on? Like, it's so creepy. The way Freddie Highmore in this episode was amazing, I have to say. Just his performance was fantastic. And Romero tells him about the girl that was found in the marsh, and Norman asks Romero to enter the house. He then tells his mother to go make dinner while he answers the questions because he doesn't really want her around, and he's pretty pissed at her as well. You can tell he's pissed at her. Romero and Norman asked Norman if he knew Annika was a prostitute, and he says yes, and she made some kind of, she kind of made him know that, and Norman tells him that he opened up about his mother to Annika, and she opened to him about how being a prostitute, and Romero says it's interesting how women connect with him, like Blair Watson, and Romero goes on to ask more questions because, I like that he mentioned Miss Watson because it's true. Miss Watson was an attractive girl. This girl was hot. Miss Watson was hot, and Romero goes on to ask more questions, and Norman tells him that he drove her to the bar and then left, and he never saw who she was missing. And Romero shows Norman a photo, and it's a girl in the morgue. And he tells Romero that he's never seen her. And Romero has one last question, and that is, did Norman even hear Annika mention Bob at the club? And he says no. And Romero leaves because that's pretty much all he really needs to know. And I thought that was really interesting that he asked Norman that question because it was interesting that he asked him that because Annika didn't mention Bob or the club, and I thought that was really interesting when we found that out. So Norma's pissed off at Norman for sending her out of the room when Romero asked him questions, and Norman asked her why she told Romero that he was the last person to see Annika. And Norman then asked her why she went to the party, why she lied to him, and Norman is pissed at her, so, furious at her, and he tells her that one of them has a problem, and he's tired of the assumption that it's him, because it's not him. He has nothing to do with it, and she needs to stop thinking that it is him. And that scene overall I thought was really good. I definitely enjoyed that. Just one of the amazing scenes this episode. A girl walks into the motel office. She has a delivery for Dylan, and Emma goes to the girl's van with her, and it's full of pot plants, and she wants Emma to take delivery of it. She does, and Emma crams all the weed into her small car and drives up to see Dylan, who is surprised to see her there, because he never thought that Emma would be involved with that. I mean, whoever thought that Emma would do something like that? So Emma tells him that she couldn't leave it at the hotel, and Norma found it, and Caleb walks up, and he sees Emma and says hello. Emma's surprised that Norma's brother is with Dylan. She had no idea they were really working together, and Caleb excuses himself, and Emma asks Dylan what he is like, and if his mom knows that he's there, and Dylan asks Emma to not tell anyone that Caleb's with him, especially Norma or Norman. It's just showing how far away he wants to be from them. He doesn't want the Bates family to really know anything. He doesn't want them involved in his life. He wants to basically just make his own decisions, and he doesn't want this to turn up like the drug war, which I like seeing from Dylan. I like seeing this character development. I like seeing that he doesn't want what happened with the drug war to happen with this. It's really well done, and I'm definitely really enjoying that. So Norman's at school, and the psychology teacher meets up with her, apologizes for being rude to her the day before. Norman thanks him, and he tells her she looks stressed and he could help her. And it's a secret of the club of the damage for people who had shitty upbringings. And he goes on to say that he sees a kindness, sensitivity, and hurt in her eyes, and if she wants to talk about it, he's there for her. And I thought that was really well done overall. And I think, honestly, this is good for Norma. I think Norma should listen to this guy, because he does have some points here. He's telling her that she's really broken, and he can see how hurt she is. She really is a damaged woman. I mean, she's constantly scared of Norman. She has no idea if he's a murderer or not. I mean, she definitely does need this help. I think she should try to get it, and I think it honestly is what's best for her, is to try to get this help, because this guy knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about, and I think she should listen to him, because he knows, he is professional at this. He's a professional psychologist, and I think, honestly, she should get that. However, As I said before, she should try to get Norman this help as well. I think if she takes these classes, Norman should try to get him as well, because I think, honestly, between her and Norman, Norman definitely needs to help more than Norma. Definitely. So at the station, they hear the victim's name, Lindsay Davis, was a 22-year-old, and she arrived in Portland 4 days ago. Her profile was on a high-end escort service, and very similar to Annika. So it definitely makes sense why Romero thinks that he could have killed her. Because if that girl's dead, maybe Annika's dead as well, and all of a sudden, and plus he wants to know more about her, but before I can see anything, there's this guy named Marcus Young that comes in. And he's running for sheriff, and he basically tells Romero that his father has a lot of friends in the neighborhood, and it is his time for him to move on. And Romero says that he's not moving on. He doesn't want him to be sheriff anymore. And I like this kind of competition here. This is actually interesting. Marcus tells him that he's not gonna be the next sheriff, and he hopes he hasn't sold his house in Missouri, and it's the last time he's ever gonna be in his office. And as Marcus is setting out the door, he pats Romero on the back and tells him that if he can be of any assistance with a homicide, he should just holler. So it seems like this guy is gonna try to take his place. What I like is that Romero doesn't want him to take his place, and I kind of like the competition between Romero and Marcus. Hopefully Romero can try to get his job back, but it seems like Marcus is going to take it from him, which I hope he's not successful in doing, because I think Romero is good at his job, and I don't think that Marcus should try to take it from him, because Romero knows what he's doing, and he is good in his job. It's just that they don't think that he is, so I find that very interesting. So Dylan then joins Caleb by the fire and asks him where the lumber came from, and Caleb says he doesn't know and says maybe Gunnar bought it. And Dylan says he would have found some way to get the money to buy it, and Caleb confesses he did it and tells Dylan to just accept it because he just wanted to do something for him. And it's honestly just a really sad scene because you see that he just really wanted to help him out. And also, I forgot to say that Emma and Gunnar did have one thing where Dylan found out that they used to date, which I like seeing that overall, but just the fact that Caleb just wants to be in his life and Dylan wants nothing to do with him, it's just really sad overall, and I really do feel bad for Caleb. You have to feel bad for him. And I like that they're trying to make us feel bad for him, because I do feel bad for Caleb. If you think about what's happened to him, it is really sad overall. I mean, just the fact that he doesn't really want to be in his life and wants nothing to do with him, yeah, it's pretty shitty what's happened to him, and he's living a pretty shitty life because of just him not wanting to be, Dylan just not wanting to be in his life, and I think Dylan can help him turn his life around if he just wants to help him, because he should try to help him. He's being there for him. He should do something nice for Caleb. He just should. It's the right thing to do. So Norman confides in Emma, then tells her that his mother is micromanaging him. It's just different lately. Like, he can't do anything right, and he's outside of her. And I like seeing this overall. Emma tells Norman that he's not bad. He says he doesn't know if someone always thinks you have done something wrong, then thinks you have done something wrong, and Norman starts shouting, storms out, tells her that he's finished talking, and Emma follows him outside, but he soon goes into the house and glares at his mother when he passes her on the stairs. And Norman confronts Norman and asks her what's wrong. And this scene was amazing. Freddie Highmore's performance here, holy shit, this was amazing. Norman tells her that he was willing to take full responsibility for Miss Watson. He even said that he did it. He felt legitimately bad over it, and she has no right, and I agree with what he's saying here, she has no right to make it look like he killed the girl if he did nothing. But of course, we don't know if he really did it. But I do agree with what he's saying, that she should not make assumptions that he did it, because she really should take his side. She is his mother. She should believe what he's saying. She knows who he is, and she should believe him. But she's constantly so scared of her son. I can totally understand why she doesn't want to believe him. But at the same time, Norman's done so many crazy things that it's understandable. So Norman starts to freak out. He's banging the bed. He tells her he did, literally, he's, banging the bed, and he tells her he did not black out that night. He did not kill her. He tries to Norman's trying to console him, but he shouts at her to get out. He's pissed at her, and then we get an extremely creepy scene. This was legitimately creepy what we saw here, because Norman goes to the bathroom. He's washing his face. He's looking in the mirror, and he looks completely unhinged. He looks like he's completely, he's starting to have these weird hallucinations, and basically he hallucinates that he sees his mother, and she asks him if he killed her, and he says he can't remember if he did. It's a blur in his head, and we start to see these visions again, which I love seeing, and she tells him to remember when he was trapped in the box and thought he was going to be buried in the ground. He remembered everything in there. She turns around to poor Bath. He says to her, "You told me," and she's like, "You told me you killed Miss Watson." She says that she did, and then tells him to get in the bath. He puts his head underwater and recreate how he fell in the box, and just knowing that this is in his head is really fucked up overall, and she says maybe then he will remember how he killed Annika, and you can see that Norman does think that he did it. He thinks that he did it, he just doesn't want to think that he did it, so he's shutting down the idea. So Norman's in the tub, he goes underwater, starts to think back, he sees himself pick up a girl who gets in his car, there are other images of Miss Watson, all of a sudden, Norma is at the bathroom door, she starts to freak out, she sees it, because of course, her son's drowning himself, and she sees that Norman's not answering. She's breaking down the door, pulls him out of the tub. Norma tells him over and over again that she's sorry, and it was just a really sad scene overall. I really did feel bad for Norman in that scene. So Norma puts Norman in bed. She tells him that she's going to go down and close the office. Norman asks her what if he did kill her. She walks away, and she is terrified at this point, because now he thinks that maybe he did kill Annika. Norma is hyperventilating, she turns off the lights in the office, and a car pulls up in front of the motel. And there's Annika. So Annika's not dead, she never was dead. Norman asks her if she's okay. Annika collapses, puts something into Norma's hand, she says, use it, do something with it, it's important. She's been stabbed in the stomach, and there's blood all over Annika's stomach and hands. She passes out, she pretty much dies, and I thought it was kind of weird they just brought her back for her to die, but at the same time, it was an amazingly well-done plot device because clearly there's something on that flash drive, and Norma runs in the hotel, calls 911, tells them that someone has been shot, and she doesn't know if Annika's dead or not. Norma looks into her hand. It's a memory stick that Annika handed her. What is on that memory stick? I have no idea. Do I feel like it's connected to Norman? Yes, I definitely do. So, what do I think happened? I don't think Norman killed her. I don't think he was involved with it, but I think somehow he was involved with this memory stick. Whatever on that memory stick, something happened. I don't know what happened, but there's clearly something else that happened there. What it is, I don't know yet, but we'll see what happens. But overall, guys, this episode was absolutely amazing. We have to talk about Norma and Norman's relationship. Clearly, Norman's having these very weird visions of Norma, just constantly telling him to do things and him just blaming himself. Clearly, that's not going to end well for anyone. It's going to end terrible for him. It's going to end terrible for Norma. Norma's going to feel terrible over what happened. I can see it not going down well for anyone. It's not going to end well for anyone, and it's going to be really sad overall. And you see that Emma's starting to get freaked out. He's freaking her out, obviously. I mean, when he's, like, running away from her, he's obviously freaking out Emma. It's understandable why he's freaking out Emma, and you have to feel bad for Emma as well. I mean, she tries to look sexy for him, and he just shuts her down, and it's really sad overall. But honestly, I feel Norma does need this psychology. I really do. I think that the psychologist has a point when he tells her that she should try to get this help because she's not in the right place right now. And I think, honestly, if she should give Norman this class. Because I feel if she gave Norman this class, he'd be better with himself. He'd feel happier about himself. He'd just be better about himself overall. We'll see how that works, but I find that to be very interesting. The whole thing with Dylan and Caleb, I just really want these two to bond. I really do. I know Dylan doesn't want to be involved with a bad crowd. I can totally understand that. But Caleb is opening his heart too. He's opening his heart, and you really should just try to connect with him. He just wants to be a father to you. That's really all he wants. I understand it's kind of too late, but I really feel that Dylan can help him turn his life around. I mean, he has a really shitty life right now. Dylan has a pretty good life, and I think if he helped him, he could really help him turn his life around. As far as Romero, I really hope Romero proves this guy wrong. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be, I really hope that he proves Marcus Young wrong. I really hope that he does. I hope that it works out well for them, because I really do want Romero to stay sheriff. I think he's good at what he does, but we'll see what happens. A lot of people are thinking that he's going to be Norma's love interest. I completely agree. I think that's what's going to happen, but we'll see what happens there. Lindsay Davis. I want to find out more about Lindsay Davis. Is she friends with Annika? What is on that flash drive? I know it's connected to Norman. I don't know how it's connected to Norman, but I know whatever happened on that flash drive, Norman is to blame for that. I don't know what it is, but we'll see. Lindsay Davis, I don't know we know barely anything about her. We know she's 22. We know she's the same age as Annika. Could she have been working the Arcanum Club? Definitely that is a possibility. But I already find that so much more interesting than the drug war. A lot of people are saying that's the drug war of this season. No, I find it so much more interesting because it actually has to do with the main plot. And that's why this season is just working out so well. Also, do you think that Norman thinks that he killed Annika? Clearly, he thinks he did, but he didn't. So, did he kill Lindsay? I think it's a possibility that he might have killed Lindsay. We briefly saw in his head Annika get into a car smiling and then, like, something happening. We don't know what happened after that, but I kind of feel like he killed Lindsay. It could have been a possibility. We'll see what happens there. I don't know really what happened, but Norman's having these weird visions, of course, so maybe he did kill Annika. I mean, we know he didn't kill Annika, but maybe he killed Lindsay. Annika being killed, I don't know who stabbed her, but we'll see what happens there. But overall, guys, by far best episode of the season. Loving this season. This season is just consistently amazing. Consistently making me think. Consistently making me more interested in the story of Norman Bates and his mother. And I love that. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. Overall, guys, I love this episode. Best episode of the season. And I'll see you guys in my next video, which we're going to review for Better Call Saul. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.